Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending today's webinar. I would like to acknowledge each and every one of you for coming here and sparing your precious time. So, not taking any time further. I would like to brief you a little bit about today's webinar. So, today's webinar, we would be joining by our external guest, Mr. Lucky Agarwal. Mr. Lucky Agarwal has a company called SolarTech Sarthi, specializing in issues of especially focusing on balance of systems with products from structures and cables and so on. So today in the seminar, he will be highlighting about these issues which we have in the PV installation. What are the quality issues we face, and what we should consider in the PV installations. And besides that, I would have two colleagues of mine who will be supporting me in this webinar from Germany. First of them is Hartwig Albert. So, hi Hartwig. And another one is Mr. William Haag. Hi William. So, I would
Hi,
first
Harpreet.
ask Hartwig to say hi to the audience and quickly introduce yourself.
Hi together, my name is Hartwig. I'm with K2 and in charge of international sales out of Europe. I have a background of at least 7 years in renewable energies, and I'm happy to co-moderate this webinar today.
Thank you, Hartwig. Thank you so much. So I will now request William to also shortly introduce himself.
Thank you, Harpreet. So my name is Willem, like already mentioned. I'm taking care mainly of the sales in Europe together with my colleagues here. And I'm really happy to join this webinar today also as a co-moderator to support in that way.
Thank you so much, William. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to the webinar to the people who just recently joined in the last 10 seconds. So I would like to tell you some rules about this webinar. Basically, there are two ways of asking the questions in this webinar. One way of asking a question is directly writing in the chat box. So if you have questions during the webinar, you can just directly write in the chat box. And there's another way of asking a question, which would be in the end of the webinar. In the end of the webinar, there would be a question and answer session, and you will see this is a button called raise a flag. Yeah. So you need to click on this raise a flag button. So once you click on raise a flag button, then we know that you want to ask a question. Then instead of writing it down using your typewriter, you can directly ask verbally. So that you can do only after the webinar, in the last Q&A session that we do after the webinar. So please to ask questions and not taking further time out. I will now request Mr. Lucky Agarwal to quickly introduce himself and also present his knowledge about the quality and safety and planning issues in the grid connected solar PV projects. So over to you, Lucky.
Thank you, Harpreet, and thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar. I especially thank K2 Systems for organizing this webinar. So I'll not take too much of time. My introduction is already being given by Mr. Harpreet. I'll just take you through our company. It is SolarTech Sarthi Private Limited. We formed this company in late October 2019, and we are just a startup company in India. And our one aim is to provide one-stop quality solutions for all your solar PV requirements. So these are the basic heads of our company, Solar PV EPC Mitra. We are targeting to help solar EPC startups in the technical know-how if they have any issues by providing them engineering design. Consumer Salakar is basically for the consumers as a consultancy services. Solar Shiksha is the capacity building, that is the need of India at the present for the rooftop segment. So we have different courses for that. We have recently launched a solar entrepreneur course called Soulpreneur for that case. And then O&M, again, a very challenging sector to it in the industry. We don't have technical asset management teams for rooftop segment. So we are targeting those areas. Products, as Harpreet sir has already told, we are targeting only premium brands, K2, Lab, Elmex, and other big brands we are supplying as a BOS, because BOS is the challenge what industry is facing at present. We have reputed modules, we have reputed inverters, but nobody is taking care of BOS items. So not taking much time for you, we'll just start the session. So when we install a solar PV system, it really looks good, right? But there are always two questions in our mind. will it generate expected energy, and how much safe it is for my premises. So these two questions are always in the mind of an installer, always in the mind of the investor who's investing in the plant. So when we install a PV system, it really looks good, right? Blue modules and everything clean, but many things are very interdependent on that. So there are some issues I'll just highlight. So first is this news, very much famous. I think most of you might be known to this. That is Walmart and Tesla issue. So Tesla installed solar PV rooftop projects on Walmart warehouses over the country, and approximate 7 rooftops over there that has caught fire. So this fire, what the issues will be with this fire? There are two issues. One is that yes, there is a safety issue, that my complete building is at risk, my premises workers are at risk when there is a fire. The second is when the fire is there, the complete project is at shutdown. That means that I have a loss of energy. Energy means I have a loss of my money. My returns will be affected because of that. Another issue, this is one is from India. So in Maharashtra, there was a shutdown of a PV project, rooftop project, and a team of 3 persons went there to rectify that. Unfortunately, one of the engineer died there on the site because again of the fire accident. So this issue is highlighting the safety of your system. Okay, this image is from LinkedIn. It is being viral a lot of days, I think past few months. So as you can see in this picture, the complete system is uprooted and is hanging on the balcony. So just imagine that one module, how much the weight of a module is, around 28 kgs, then the structure weight, then the foundations. Now, if these things get over or fall over someone who is walking down the street or who is standing beside in the balcony, so how much dangerous it can be. Yes, again, both the issues, safety and energy losses we have. Now there are some statistics. There's a study done by TUV. So they show that what are the major causes of defects in a solar PV rooftop project. So if you can see that installation faults are the major, that is 55%, and then the second is 25% goes to documentation and planning faults. So if I take in total around 70 and 60, 80% goes to completely where the workmanships are involved, or where we plan a system, where we install a system, where we design a system. So there is where the issues are. There's another study that is by GIZ and Pierre Berlin that is particularly for Indian rooftop sector. So different rooftops, underperforming rooftops, I would mention, they were audited, and what are the issues they are finding here? Findings are shown in the slide. So major issues was soiling, that is the cleaning was not there. Now cleaning can be because of two reasons. One is that proper O&M has not been done. That means I'm not going to site for cleaning. And the second main reason is there is no access to clean that. So while planning and installing, I have a very vague design or very vague planning, that I didn't have a walkway to clean that. So that is the major issue. Then cell cracks, again a workmanship issue. Then we walk over the modules, when you sit over the modules, there's crack on that. Near shadings, again a planning issue. If there's a water tank, there's a tree beside my rooftop, and a shadow comes, again there will be a performance loss and a fire issue can be there. So all of these are your workmanship issues that we have highlighted here. So okay, I'll just take you to what different project phases you have in project development. So very initial stage is feasibility and planning, then is detailed design, then is your installation, commissioning, and operation and maintenance. Now all these different phases are interlinked to each other. So if I have a wrong planning and feasibility study, that will affect my design. If I have wrong design and detailed engineering, that will affect my installation. If I have a wrong installation and commissioning practice, then that will affect my O&M, and ultimately all of the thing will be affected to my energy generation and the safety risk of my premises. So if I lose energy, I lose money. I'll not say that okay, if I'm losing energy, then I'll not promote solar. I'll not say that okay, you have to install solar on my residential, because I'm getting nothing out of that. So we have to take care of all those different phases of a project development, and while planning we have to be very, very sure. So I'll just show you a few slides for that. So I'll not highlight very major issues like micro cracks or module level or inverter level. I'll just limit myself to planning stage and the BOS item stage. How without investing a huge amount of money we can save a lot, that I'll talk in this slide. So you can see this poor feasibility and planning. So if while planning, I've not gone to site for a site inspection while proposing a capacity to a client. So what happens is, you can see in this first picture, so there's a tree. You can see there's no walkway, there's no way to access those modules to clean, and you can see how much dust is there on these modules. So with this dust, there will be a hotspot on my modules, there will be a lower generation, and if this tree somehow falls because of huge wind or any other issue, then my modules and my system will be breakage. Again, there will be a low generation for that. Again, second picture is same. You can see that on the mumty, these modules are coming out of the mumty or the premises area, or the parapet, you can say. So these modules will experience a very huge wind pressure, and again, it is not safe to work on such systems. So it is like I install a system and I went back, I never come back to the system. So ultimately, loss is of a customer. So on planning stage, Harpreet sir will be taking you to K2. They have a free software, a tool that you can use to plan your system accurately, to give those walkways, to have a shadow analysis. So Mr. Harpreet will be talking in the second part of this PPT session. So I'll not take too much time on this feasibility and planning. Okay, I'll just share one, one instance that happened with me a week ago. So my one of the EPC friend, he approached me and he said that, okay, Lucky, you have to design a system around 30 kilowatt you have to install on this building. So I said, okay, you just give me your coordinates of the building. So when I checked the coordinates of the building, the total, the floor area, not the rooftop space area or the shadow free area, total floor area was less than 20 square meter. Sorry, less than 200 square meter. So it is not practically possible to have a 35 kilowatt system to be installed there. So I conveyed my message to him, and the final result was, see, Lucky, this is a tender, the capacity is already defined by the client, we have getting into this project, and anyhow you have to fit this. So when we fit projects on such a situations, so issues like this will happen. The generation will be low, you have very safety issues on that. So you have to be very careful when you're planning your system. Okay, another important challenge that I have seen in my industry is DC connectors, MC4 connectors. So people are not taking that very seriously. So at present, if you see the range of DC connectors that are available in the market, that is from 25 rupees a pair to 100 rupees a pair. So there's a huge gap and huge different kinds of products that are available. So when we buy a MC4 connector, what we usually ask the customer or the manufacturer is that, okay, how much the price is. But ever we ask that what is the contact resistance of that this MC4 connector. So a contact resistance, if it is higher for a MC4 connector, it will cause you energy losses, it will cause you your safety issues, it will cause you a fire in a very worst situation. So you should be very technical, you should be very careful when you're procuring such small items. So this will not cause a very huge impact on your overall project cost. Let's say you are using a 50 rupees pair MC4 connector, and let's say 10 pairs are used in your 10 kilowatt project. So right now the project cost of a 10 kilowatt system, let's say 40 rupees, is your 4 lakh rupees something. So under 4 lakh, if you are investing 10 MC4, that is of 500 rupees. That is a no cost when you compare to the bigger items. But the small cost will have you a lot of issues later on in your, O&M time and your later on issues in the site. So what are the major issues? Inferior quality, improper crimping. I think many of you would agree with me that on site we only do that quickly. We want to finish the site, so we don't have actual proper access to the tools. So we should use a crimping tool, but in industry we are using normal pliers many times. I have myself seen people using normal pliers to crimp that. So when you use a normal plier to crimping a MC4 connector, it will not give you a proper contact, it will not give you a proper the reasoning why we are using MC4 connectors and not just tightening those wires, because the DC system we're working on 1000 volt. This is a very dangerous voltage. Loose glands, improper mating, we use MC4 connectors from different makes. So these are the issues that are there. You can see in this picture also there is improper mating, the connectors glands are loose. So this is the major cause of your burning of fires in your solar PV systems. But these are some very simple best practices that you can adopt to reduce those risks, to increase the energy generation from your plant by just following those selection of good quality, using of heavy crimping tool, tightening of proper glands, using the proper tools. I think few people are using these tools to tighten up and to open your MC4 connectors. So these tools are available. They're not very expensive tools, but by using them, you can save your system from a future damage. Another thing is your DC combiner boxes. I think again, everybody of you will agree with me. Nowadays, your SPDs, isolators, they are on the inverter itself. So many people say that what is the need of them, your DC combiner boxes? But yes, there is a need when you are doing maintenance, when there is a safety threat, you have that DC combiner box readily installed in your system and good design. So what are the issues in that? Open combiner boxes, we do not close them on the site. Drilling into the combiner boxes, improper gland sizing, many cables into the site. Again, if you can see this picture, so there's single gland with many cables in both the glands. So a gland, purpose of a gland is to hold the cable so that the stress on the cable is less. But when we do such practices, there's no, there's no use of that gland, and the result will be a fire case. There will be a complete fire, and if you are installing these combiner boxes beside your modules, 99% of time we do that, then your module is also at a risk of fire. So now what are the best practices? Again, very simple best practices: use one cable per gland. That should be the bylaw that we should follow in this solar PV rooftop industry, particularly. One cable per gland, and the gland should be properly tightened up, properly sized for that particular cable. If you are using 2.5 square mm cable with a 6 square mm gland, there's no use of that gland. Okay, so this was till 2-3 points I only covered for the electrical safety. Now structure is again a very important issue that you need to follow. I showed you a picture where the complete system was uprooted. So I have just quickly given two basic segments that we should have look upon. First is importance of engineering design, and then importance of quality installation practices. So these two factors we should be taking care whenever we are planning a system, whenever we are installing a system. So how engineering design is important. So very first is your wind load assessments. So what the current practice is that we use one design for all systems. That is not true. So one design for all systems is not true. If you are designing a system for a 2-story building in Delhi, that cannot be copied, cannot be replicated on a 20-floor building in Delhi, because the wind speed on 2 floor and 20 floor is very different. 20-floor building will be experiencing a very high wind speed. So you need to design that system or the structure based on that. So again, we have only dependency of simulation softwares, but simulation softwares are not the solution. Simulation softwares, yes, definitely will help you, but those are black box. Whatever you'll input, they'll give you an output. So if your input wind load assessments is not correct in a STAAD software, the output will not be correct. So what is a very easy potential mitigation for that? You use Indian and international standards to calculate the accurate wind speed, then use that wind speed in your STAAD software or any software that you are using to calculate the structural design, and then get that design reviewed by a experienced independent structural engineer, not an electrical engineer, not a solar expert, but consult a structural engineer for that. Wind zone, again in the first picture also I have shown you. There's a second picture. You can see these modules are outside the premises of my building roof. These modules are outside the premises of my building roof. As you can see in this picture, there's a study by Solar Under Storm Part 2. This shows that you can use these standards that I've shown you, ASC and other Indian standards, to calculate the wind zones. So once that wind zones are calculated, then you have to see that where you need to install the solar PV system. So usually the edges of my building, they experiences very high wind speed. That is why it is recommended to have a setback area or to leave some keep out. Now there will be two benefits of leaving a setback or a keep out. That one is that wind speed, I'll not be into a danger zone. Second is O&M. I can easily do O&M and further maintenance of my system. So again, this is linked to your planning and feasibility stage. During the planning stage, if I have not done a good planning for this particular array, then I have to face challenges while my O&M stage or later stage when the customer is taking care of the system. Another is mounting area considerations. Again, a very basic thing. If you just download the module manufacturer's datasheet or the manual that you are using, each and every module manufacturer, they'll provide you the mounting area, where the clamp should be, where the nut bolt should be, but we never follow that, right? So if you can see this, I've taken from one of the manufacturer. the distance from the mounting area to the edge of the module, whether it is a landscape or whether it is a portrait kind of a situation, it is same. So this is same distance, and again this is equal to this. This is even distances that you have to have a proper wind pressures on the module. But while installation, we don't take care of that. You can see in this picture, this is a very huge gap, this is a small gap. So I violate what my manufacturer is saying. So if a accident happens here, or if modules are damaged because of wind, then I cannot claim warranty from my PV module manufacturer. That we have to take care. Again, you can see in this below picture, a bigger distance, a smaller distance. So I don't think these very small issues will cost you a huge cost impact, but it is only the matter of correct knowledge and correct implementation of those things. Bad quality installations. If my installation, my workmanship is not good, then again I'll have to face few issues in that. Again, if you can see in this first picture, so the clamp and the nut bolts, the purlin to the rafter is not clamped properly. The nut bolt is loose. I have just to try to finish the project in a very early time, I have used that. So, but again, if such a situation is there with the passing on time, contraction, expansion, vibrations, and if this nut goes down, it is loosened up, then again your system will be flying in the air. It's very, very dangerous from the safety point of view and from the your generation point of view. A system failure will definitely cause a system shutdown and a loss of energy. Okay, now this is that my foundation was not chipped, not prepared properly, so it is hanging. So the dead weight I need to provide to my system is not accurately provided here. Again, loosen up your nut bolts because of vibrations, and this is not very old pictures. This might be a picture of 2 months after the installation when we went to the site. So like these issues you need to be take care very, very much. Again, each module manufacturer and the structure manufacturer, usually they'll give you the the torque range, that what torque you should be using while tightening up this. You have to mark a torque torque line on the nut bolt, that okay, this is the and you have to tighten up those structures. Again, we're not following that. Very low quality. You can see the clamp is not properly holding the module, and if a very high wind pressure comes here, the module will be definitely flying in the air. And there's a very very bad effect if you are using such kind of clamps, because there's a cascading effect if you're not using nut and bolt and you're using let's say clamps. So a clamp, two clamps, middle clamps will be shared by the outside modules. So two modules will be sharing two middle clamps, and if one module is loosened up because of such a issue, then there's a cascading effect from one to another, another to another, and complete system will be uprooted. So you have to be very, very cautious while designing and implementing such issue. Again, in the last picture, you can see my clamp is not properly holding the module. So these are very small steps. So I'll conclude my session here with three major insights that you'll have to take care of. One is capacity building. You have to transfer knowledge from you to the actual installation team that is working there. Properly design your system, properly select the BOS items. That's all from my end. I'll open the session for questions now. Thank you all for listening me for this webinar.
Thank you so much, Lucky. Really informative sessions. Really thank you for that informative information. I think you talked about the various electrical issues, including the structural issue. I think people now should be aware about there is a necessity of using a good connectors, and they should use a proper tools. They should crimp the wires, and also they should consider like there should be proper earthing. For example, combiner boxes also, they should consider the value of combiner boxes in the PV installations, the role of cables as well. So I think you touch a very good part, which is presently neglected in the solar PV installations, because a lot of EPCs are coming up. They are just more concerned about the pricing, but they neglect the quality part. So thank you for touching that quality part. Now I will request Hartwig, if there are any, we can take one question right now. If there is any question coming up in the chat box, so we can take just one question at the moment. Rest question we can take in the Q&A session.
You see, I have two questions I would like to transfer to Lucky. You know, one question is that we got from the audience, how to select MC4 connectors. Could you maybe shed a little bit light on that?
Yeah. So as I told in my presentation, so there is a contact resistance of every MC4 connectors. So whenever you buy a MC4 connector, just see what is the contact resistance for that. It should be minimum. If you'll see branded, the premium brands Elmex, Lap, and other like your MC4, that is original Stably company. So they have very least values of these connector values, contact resistance values. And if you'll go by these local makes, they have very high values. So higher the contact resistance, you have more energy losses and more safety issues to your system. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucky. Thank you, Hartwig. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank once again, Lucky, for briefing us about the various quality issues which are concerning in the solar PV installations. So, to begin with, I would like to show once again a picture which Lucky also showed it. Just a moment. I hope this picture is visible to all of you. Is the picture visible, Hartwig?
Picture is visible. Perfect.
So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to begin with, because a lot of electrical parameters has been touched by Lucky. So now my focus would be on the structural part, and you know that one of the spiritual leaders, namely Sadhguru, mentioned that without a strong foundation, it is difficult creating anything of a value. So coming back to Lucky's presentation, that there are also a lot of things you need to taken care electrically. You can see this PV plant falling down in Pune, and I would also like to highlight that it's not that the human life which get affected, it's not that the solar panels get affected, it's not that structure get affected, but you also see that since there's a disconnection of the electricity, the DC and AC get disconnected. I'm also sure that the inverter would have been also affected. Yeah, because you can see that structure plays a very less part in the solar PV installation. If you talk about the overall cost, it is less than 6% of the overall cost. So if you neglect the structural part, which is the foundation of a solar PV structure, you will not only ruin the solar PV modules, not only structure, but I think also the inverter, because the DC and AC get disconnected suddenly, and definitely there would be that inverter get faulty as well. And at least I will consider in this case, in this installation, the typical inverter would be costing at least, a good quality inverter would be costing at least $1,000. So you see, you are making a mess of the complete installation just because you are neglecting the basic, which is the foundation, which is the solar structural part. So you cannot afraid to make a planning. You cannot make an error in the beginning, because the foundation begins with structures. The foundation begins with the mechanical planning. Of course, you have to take on other electrical consideration about cables, connectors, combiner boxes, and so on. But the foundation, the beginning has to be strong. Then only your solar PV will come up with the best standards. Customer would be really happy. But in this case, you make it customer so happy. Not only customer, but you also made other people who thinks that this the future would be solar, would be renewable energy. They also think 2-3 times now whether to invest in a solar or not, or solar is a bad idea. But they don't think that the people who did it, they didn't consider the planning very well. They neglected the structural part, they neglected the wind pattern, they neglected the very basic part. Because of that, all the things get damaged, and you had a very bad name in the solar PV market. So you need to consider that structure plays a very vital role. So coming back to this topic, so I will come back to the next slide. Yeah, so I'll just touch the small part. What are the factors which influence the roof? There is a wind loads, and also you need to see the roof conditions, whether your roof is stable or not. And then also the fixation method, because it will decide whether it will able to sustain the wind speeds, the kind of wind speeds it should sustain in that region. And also the inclination and weight and size of the modules are also very important while deciding the structures. So need to consider this basic part while designing structures, otherwise you are going to make a big mess. So I hope this you should consider in your future installations. So as I said, apart from these, there's also wind speeds you need to consider on the local wind conditions. And also you need to understand that wind is different in different areas. So in coastal areas, the wind pattern can be different. In open fields, it can be different. Rural, it can be different. And urbanized, it can be different. So you need to consider not only the wind speed, but you also need to consider the terrain category, because terrain category will define the effective load which your particular the structure, roof, and module has to take. Yeah. So you need to make sure all these three things has to take that wind load, and you need to make sure that it should be able to take that wind load, because otherwise you will see the pictures like this also in your future installations. So if you plan your system better, you will not only you will also save cost. Like, let me Lucky has talked about you cannot install the panels on this zones basically. So I show you first layout where 36 roof hooks was used, but it was not verified because it was on the zones, basically these zones basically. So it's not verified and use 36 roof hooks. In the second one, you put the solar PV in somewhere in the more in the middle, but there you use 29 roof hooks, and all that also system is not stable. But if you plan in a nicer way, you just need a 24 roof hooks and the system would be verified. The idea of telling you this slide is that planning is really important. Planning will also save you cost also, and also will help you to make sure that system is verified. It will be able to sustain the wind loads. So you should consider, a lot of focus is put on the electrical planning, because of course it will give you a lot of money, because you are unfortunately producing electricity. But if you neglect that basic part, if you neglect the structural part, you will damage, as I said, the solar inverter, solar panels, structure of course, and your reputation as well. So should not do that. Yeah. Now coming back to before going to the online tool, I would like to explain you a little bit about our company. Our K2 Systems is very old company. It's not just a recent company. It's a company more than 17 years old and more than 180 employees. And if you talk about installed capacity, is more than 10 gigawatt, and very less problems we have faced so far. And that was not it's negligible, the problems we face. So we have a lot of experience in the solar PV installations, and we know what factors need to be considered, especially for the structures. And talk about our worldwide locations. You can see we are almost everywhere in the world. We have our subsidiaries in various parts of India, and soon we also like to establish one subsidiary also in Delhi, where I'm sitting at. And if you talk about our worldwide installations, you see our installations has been everywhere in the world, whether it's from east to west or from north to south. We have our references all over the world. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to tell you an online tool. There are some factors which I talked about in my presentation, what factors need to be considered. But now I would like to talk about an online tool which is called K2 Base, which is of course free of cost. This tool will help you do at least the mechanical planning in a very effective way. And if you really follow these steps which I will explain you will be able to plan a smaller installations is less than 5 minutes. And this will also ensure that your system is stable, because we have incorporated all the things in the software, and it will tell you also, considering the wind load also and wind patterns, whether your system is PV installation is verified or not. So I hope if you are excited up to know about this tool, please type yes in the chat box. Okay, so let's begin our online tool. So as I said, this is a free of cost tool, and what you need to do in order to open an account on this, you need to go to this URL called base.k2systems.com, and then you just need to click first log out to show you how you need to create a to be a member of this. So just need to click on this sign up button basically, and it will tell you talk about your company name, first name, and so on. And you just need to fill up this small form, which will roughly take less than 1 minute. And then you need to click on this sign up button. So once you do this, we will receive your request, and within normally 24 hours, you will get a reply from us with your username and password, and then you can start planning your projects. So don't forget to do this step. Please do go to this base.k2 system and do register yourself so that you can start planning your PV installations in K2 base. So now let me go back to my username and password. Let me log in inside the K2 base. See, before going to the project, I would like to tell you that this K2 base, you can do it in both metric and imperial. So if you are interested in inches and so on, like in US, you can choose imperial. And if you are interested in mm, you can choose metric. I normally recommend, my favorite is metric, because most of the solar modules data sheets, all the data is mostly in millimeters, so it becomes easier to work on metrics. So but if you are more convenient in using imperial, you can choose imperial as well. And this tool is available in 18 different languages. And then you can also have you can download this project file. This have an extension called .k2o, and you can also ask Sherpa. It's like a robot which will answer your questions. You can directly write to Sherpa as well. And then basically in this online tool, you just need 4 steps. Ladies and gentlemen, just 4 steps. You can do the complete mechanical planning on this using this K2 base. So first I will move to the first part, which I will click, which is called project. So I will click on new project. The first part basically is defining the location of your project, nothing else, just defining the basic things. So what I'll do is I've chosen a location in Bangalore, and I will name this project as Bangalore project, and author is myself. And then you can choose a customer, and I can choose a customer for, in this case, from Lucky Solar Tech Sarthi. And for example, Lucky Agarwal is the customer name. So first part is finished. I've done the basic part. I define the customer name, contact. You can leave it blank also. These are not mandatory. Mandatory is what you will do it on the software, or what software will give you in return. So once you did the first part project, then the second part is the roof. You need to click on the roof, and then you need to zoom in this Google map. You can either choose hybrid satellite image, but I prefer a hybrid image. And then what you have to do is, if you use some other simulation tool like Helioscope, etc., similar to that, you can construct a roof on it. You need to click on this add button, and then define whether it's a mono-pitch roof or a gable roof or a flat roof. So in this case, my roof is flat, so I will click on flat roof, and I will click on rectangle, and then I will click on add. And then I take one of the edges using my mouse and draw over it. So once I did it, as you know, you need to consider various factors into account. So building height, for example, is also one of the important factors, because wind speeds are different at different heights. So you really need to define what height is your building, so that you need to make the correct wind pattern basically. So you need to define here the wind building height. I know in this case it's 11 meters, and then also you can define the roof pitch. If it's not completely flat, you can consume 1 degrees. And you can also, with the help of this roof orientation pitch, you can also define whether you want to put your solar panels all south facing or east west facing or north south facing. In this case, I want to install my panels actually on the southwest facing. Therefore, I will click on this, and you can see this arrow is moving, which will be your reference. Yeah. So this would be my reference. And then I also will define the parapet wall, because the parapet wall will also give you some kind of a shading. So you can define this, and also most of the rooftop in India comes with a parapet wall, and it's also, people say this is a safety wall. So it's normally 1 meter in height, and then you can also tell the friction coefficient based on the material of the roof. In this case, it's 0.6. So ladies and gentlemen, I will be touching only the basic part of the K2 base. The advanced version, I will do it in another separate webinar, considering the time constraints. So don't worry about that. And so the second part is finished. The roof part is finished now. Now begin with the third part, yeah, which is the most important part. I would like to highlight here is that you can also construct a pathways for the cleaning if you need, and you can also do a shading analysis for the obstructions as well. So that I will show you if you're interested in the advanced version of the K2 base webinar. But I would like to highlight here that this is also possible with the K2 base. You can do the shadow analysis also. You can create walkways as well. And then the third part, ladies and gentlemen, we are finished with the two parts. Then you click on the design. And in the design, you need to define which solar modules you want to use for this project. So I will take one of the popular module manufacturer, in this case, Vikram Solar, Indian solar module manufacturer, and I will consider, for example, a higher watt module. Let's say Eldora 335 watt. And then once I define the module, because then I will define the module array. So need to click on module array, and then you need to click like the same way you click the plus button for creating a roof. You need to create a plus button here for creating a module field as well. So just click on the module field, and now you see that it will tell you all the products which is there for the flat roof, and you can see the new feature which is just recently incorporated. It will also tell you which would be the most favorable product for this installation. So it's showing, considering if you just wanted to have a single side faces module, then you click on S-Dome V10. And if you want to have double-sided facing, whether in this case southwest and southeast facing module, then you can use D-Dome V10. But I will choose S-Dome V10 in this case. And then I had an option of either choosing complete roof or a module field. So if you already have a module layout defined by yourself, then I will recommend you click using module field. But if you don't have defined, you just wanted to utilize the complete roof for the solar PV installations, then just simply click on complete roof. So I want to install Maxeon on my roof, on this roof. So I just click on complete roof. So I just click on add. So see, a module field has been created. And you can also see in the bottom, this is a PV installation of roughly 157 kilowatts. Yeah. And you can also simulate, let's say in this also you can play with using double-sided PV installation. You can also see that the PV installation will increase, because then you don't have to leave not much space in between the rows. Yeah. So you can play with this as well. So you're complete with the third step, ladies and gentlemen. So quickly complete it. So you're complete with the design part. Now comes the last part and the most important part, which is indissoluble part of PV planning is that consideration of loads. Yeah. So I will click on loads, and I would like to tell you that you need to define here a wind speed. Yeah. So what I will do is I will consider for defining the wind speed map of India. Now you can see this wind speed map of India, and I know my installation is in south of India, which is in this region, Bangalore, and Bangalore is in this range of 33 meter per second, and I know this is a urban area. But this wind speed, by referring to this wind speed map is based on 3-second values, but calculated by like wind measurements using anemometer or whatever the wind instrument you use for calculating the wind measurements. Then you will go to convert this wind speed into 10-minute average values. So I know this one is 33 meter per second. So I will convert this 33 meter per second into 10-minute average using this tool. So what I will do is I will put this 33 here, and this gives me equivalent of 23 meter per second. And this will be the input for the K2 base project. So what I will do is I will go back to my K2 base, and I will insert the wind speeds at 23 meter per second. And if I put the 23 meter per second, you can see the peak velocity pressure, the load is 930 Newton per square meters. Yeah, but this is not a coastal areas, this is urban area. So I will click on urban areas. From 930 Newton per square meter, it has gone down to 380 Newton per square meters. So this, as I said in the presentation, defining a terrain category is also important because this will ultimately define your peak velocity pressure. So you need to consider not just the wind speed, the wind patterns, and also the terrain category. Of course, you also need to consider the load bearing capacity of your roof. That I will talk about in the very soon. So in this case, you can also define if it's a snow load area, you can also define snow load. In this case, it's quite near to the equator, there's no snow, I will put that 0. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You are finished with the complete simulation in K2 base. Now what you have to do is you just need to go to the results and see whether your system is verified or no. It will tell you whether your system is verified or not. And now you can see the loads on the modules and verification system utilization. So it says that selecting mounting system can be installed as planned. It is verified. Yes. So that's it. You are done, completely done with your planning, mechanical planning. Now what you will do is you will go to the summary, and that will, I will tell you the most interesting part, and then it will give you the complete bill of materials. And now you can also generate a report as well. So what I'll do is whatever you need for the project, if you need assembly plan, ballast plan, you just click on this and click on generate to create a report. So it's taking a little bit time to download it, depending on the internet speed here. So it's a very nice tool because it will give you, it will consider all the loads in 2 factors, and it will also gives you guarantee that your system is verified or not. So let me open this. So you see now a 15-page report has been created, and the first page talk about the project, the author, and the date when it's done. It's done today's date. And then also it's divided into various parts, the report. The first part talks about the project data, the address, the type of the route, the customer, Solartech Saarthi in this case, loads, modules you consider, then also pre-assembly instructions with diagrams, then also assembly plan. Yeah, and this assembly plan, you can actually take a printout of this assembly plan and give it to your installer. This will make the life of the installer very easy. Yeah, so this, and then it talks about various loads acting on it based on defining the each block. So it's this block of 157 kilowatt is divided into 8 blocks, and for each block it will tell you the forces, yeah, on the edges and the sides. So each block it will take. Then it talks about the ballast plan, how much ballast you have to put. This will also talk about that as well. So you can zoom in so you can see the ballast values are not so high. So you don't need to put ballast everywhere. So for each block you will have an individual ballast plan as well. Yeah, that's it. No, it should be more. Then, very important, this talks about the dead load. For in this case, it's 13062 kilograms. Yeah, 13,000 kilogram of dead load you are putting for this 157 kilowatt installation. Because this tool is verified, this will consider. We normally gives you 12 years of warranty for solar structures, but we don't give you guarantee whether your roof would be able to bear this much load of this much weight of the complete system. In this case, the complete weight of module and structure is coming out to be 13,062. So for that, you need to basically hire a structural engineer, because this is a task of structural engineer to assess whether your roof is strong enough to sustain that much load or not. So it's not just that, as mentioned by Lucky in this presentation as well. You need a structural expert on that, which will ensure that this roof is safe to bear that much load of a solar system. So we even give values for the structural engineer, which will make the task of structural engineer easy. So you just need to go to the structural engineer guy and say that, see, we have this much of weight we are going to put on our roof. You please tell us whether our roof is strong enough to bear that weight or not. Once he says yes, then only you should go ahead with the next steps. But on the other hand, what we found out that for a smaller installation, people don't interested in putting extra money for hiring a structural engineer. In that case, if you are strong enough, you're confident enough yourself, then that your roof is strong, very much strong enough, then you can also take your decision, but will not recommend that. So better to hire a structural engineer and make sure that your system should be able to withstand that much amount of dead load of the PV modules and structures. Then the interesting part, it talks about the structural analysis, talks about the various formulas, various stress strain velocities it has considered in the PV system installations. And then it talks about the way the stress is being developed from top to bottom, the diagrams. Then in the end, it talks about the bill of materials. Yeah, and I'd also like to highlight here basically that you can also, if you just a moment. If you want ballast value in terms of number of stones, you can also do that by just clicking here number of stones, and you can define the weight of each stone. For example, 5 kilogram, you have to define the weight of each stone. Then instead of giving values in kgs, it will give you ballast plan in number of stones. Second, you can also download the ballast plan. I will just download the ballast plan here instead of complete project. And this file is smaller, so it must be faster to download. So yeah, now you see it talks about ballast plan in terms of the number of stones. So weight of stone used is 5 kilograms. Yeah, so for example, here you need to use 2 stones for 5 kilograms each, and for each these arrays you can calculate. It becomes easier for you to calculate for your PV projects how many stones you need. So these figures is also possible using K2 base. So how many of you found this tool useful? If you found this tool useful, please type yes in the chat box. So thanks. I think I can see a lot of yes from in the chat box. So that's all from the K2 base side. And now I'd like to tell you that now we are open for Q&A in a session. Now I would like to ask Hartwig to join the session and let us know what questions audience have.
Okay, hi again. Maybe we start with a question coming from Sridhar S. So I unmute his microphone to pose the question now, please.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, that was a fantastic session. A lot of insight about the planning and everything. Quite informative. But I just wanted to know, is this an open source software?
Sorry, this is an?
Is this an open source software? Can anybody use this without taking any paid permission or license?
Yes, this tool is open, free of cost. You don't need to pay even a penny. Only thing you need to do is you need to go to the base.k2 system and fill up the sign up button. And then you will get your username and password within 1 or maximum 2 days. And then you can start planning your projects in that.
Okay. I just even wanted to know.
The software. So it's an online tool basically.
Okay, what is the advantage of K2 offering such an open source software?
First of all, yeah, we want to create an awareness about basically, because what we see in the pictures that a lot of roof PV installations are falling on the roof. This open tool will help you to plan it will save your time, and also of course it will also this will help us to to market our products as well. So this is a tool which we are also, of course, it only was possible to plan with K2 products only, and so that's the basic objective. Yeah, basically, so it basically objective is that you should get you should consider all the factors, and then you should also plan with the right products.
Okay, thank you.
So we see another question coming from Khurram. So I unmute your microphone now. Please ask your question. Okay, it seems he's not willing to unmute the microphone. It's not working for whatever reason. There's another question coming from Santosh Caravan. So please. Also not working. For whatever reason, it's blocked.
Hello. Hello.
Is it working now? Okay.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah. Yes. My name is Santosh. My question is, how you are going to market your products in India? I want to know your mode of sales channel.
Yeah, I think that question we take offline instead of discussing it here. That you can discuss with me one-to-one basis. I will really appreciate that if you can discuss that with me on a one-to-one basis. Thank you.
Okay.
Next question, Hartwig.
There is a question from Shirsha. So I mute microphone now. Not working for whatever reason. It's working now? No. Okay. So we see question from Mahindra, so I unmute the microphone now. Also not working for whatever reason. So anyway, in the meantime, you know, I got a couple of questions in the chat box I'd like to transfer to the audience. And the first question, you know, Lucky, you know, coming from the audience, what is your opinion on the quality of manpower in the solar industry?
Okay, thank you for this question, Harpreet. Okay, there's no opinion on that. What I told in my presentation was there is a gap between the knowledge transfer from the upper management to the one who are working on the field. So as per me, there should be a proper workmanship plan. There should be a workmanship, you know, standard operating procedure so that they can use, they can practice, and they can install your system on site. And again, second thing is they should be having some proper tools, as I discussed about those crimping tools and other things. So if I have a shortage of tool at my site, anyhow I have to complete my site and give to you, right? So proper capacity building and proper resources, they should be provided. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And there was another question that was pretty interesting. I would like to address to you, Lucky. You know, one asked that what steps we need to adapt to avoid fire accidents. So in case of fire, how to handle fire without fear of electrocution.
Okay. So regarding fire, what I would say, particularly in India, is we don't have proper safety checkups from the fire. Very small thing is that let's say how many houses they have a solar rooftop, how many industries they have a rooftop system. That information is still not with the fire department. Maybe your DISCOM might be having that information. So when we talk about fire, the very major source of fire in your solar PV rooftop systems is the DC arcs. And the sources of DC arcs I've already told in my presentation. One is your loose connections in the DC wire because you're working on 1000 volt of you know, the DC voltages. So if you have a loose MC4 connector, if you have a loose connection in the array junction boxes, if you have a loose gland in your junction boxes, if a water goes into your junction boxes, those all things cause fire. So one thing is proper, again, two main things. One is your proper installation and proper selection of equipments, again related to your proper planning.
You know, well, thank you for that answer, Lucky. We might have another question that is related to what we discussed earlier in the webinar, where the question popped up how to select MC4 connectors. And like you mentioned, to request for the contact resistance values as criteria.
Yes.
So one additional question was if you consider also other things like, for example, TÜV or UL certificates and the testing of the connectors in addition to contact resistance or other factors.
Yes, so when I talk about contact resistance, so those values are actually coming from the third-party testings, either by UL, either by TUV or any other third-party testing agency. So those values should be coming from a third party. It is not that if I'm a manufacturer, I'll put up that value for my publicity. That value should be coming from a third party. And in addition to contact resistance, you can also check the IP ratings for that, whether after mating they are, you know, viable for open installations in the field, because these connectors are installed in the open field. They are directed to UV lights, they are directed to rain, water, and everything. So these two, I think, are the main factors that you need to care of.
Okay, thank you. So Rajiv Gupta also raised hand and got a question. I unmuted his microphone, so please ask your question.
Okay. Good morning to everybody. My question is this: like, if suppose we share the details and then K2 team provide us the design specifications and we buy and go as per their design and as per their BOQ, then are they offering any warranty with respect to performance and safety of the equipments? Yes or no?
Yes, like if in K2 base, if you plan our software in K2 base, and in the K2 base, if it shows that your system is verified then you will get the warranty for 12 years from K2
Warranty
system.
for the 12 years.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And okay, fine. Thank you. Then definitely I will have more questions. And then probably I will communicate with one-to-one. Thanks. But you are off. But this is for sure that you are providing the 12 years warranty for that, right?
Yes.
And of course.
Yeah.
Okay. And definitely. What about the cost part for it? Like for example, there are the different installers. Do you have your installation? Do you have your installation team as well?
Cost, but we never discuss on the webinars. But I will really appreciate. You can see my email and phone number on the screen. So after the webinar, please call me. Then I will really like to discuss cost part US as well on one-to-one basis.
No. Another questions. As per your design, as per your design, do you provide the installation services as well?
No, we'll give you installation instructions. We will give you a very good PDF which containing all the instructions how you have to do the installations of mounting structures. That support we will give you.
No, to provide any confusion, if suppose I request you, no, okay, we would like to installation to be done by your team only, so that there is no confusion between that there was a fault for the installation team and this was not part of the design team. If suppose we want to be totally trouble free, then is it acceptable to you or not?
No, like we'll give you as a supplier of structures, we'll give you the product, and also will help you with all the help you need for the installation procedures. But the manpower, etc., that is the task of the customer itself. That is the task of your team only. But we can train your team if they face any problems on how to install the structures. In that way, we can help them via phone calls, etc.
No, I'm okay. Again, I will have a chat with one-to-one, but we are looking for a installation service provider as well, as per their design.
Okay. Yeah, let's discuss this on one-to-one. Yeah, I think that would be much better.
Fine. Okay, and apart from this, see, it's very sensitive issue. You know that there is too much competition in the market, and it's supposed when we are using your K2 softwares, of course your intention is to promote your product of K2 POS forms, and of course your interest. That's why you are offering this services free of cost online. But how our customer or client information is being strictly keep with you confidential?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last line. Can you repeat, please?
So see how see, there is a tough competition in the market, right? To a single customers, different EPC teams are following up to get the orders, right? Once see how your system is protecting our interest that our client information is not being shared to anybody else.
Maybe William, you want to answer? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Thank you for that question, because for us it's very important to keep to also stick to the European data protection law, the general data protection regulation that we have in Europe, and there it's clearly defined that we don't have a direct access to each single project data. So by this, respecting this European data protection regulation, I think we provide a very good way in keeping your data staying your data in that sense.
William, if sorry, I respect what you are saying, but can you provide me some document based on which as evidence that how our data is going to be protected? Definitely you will be following certain norms and standards and regulations and agreements with the governments, right? So can I get a copy of a document to just gain my confidence in your system?
Well, we can provide you the data protection regulations, and all these steps in it are followed by that way. And also, if you just have to to check just a moment. Also, if you look on the K2Base software, then there are the user. There is also given on the bottom the privacy policy in detail, how we handle everything. Maybe Harpreet, you can just share your
No.
screen again so we can show it.
And William, and how many systems in your, how many persons or the members in your team or company will have the access to my data?
Actually, there is to your data, we don't have a direct access based on the European Data Protection Regulation. We just have a only if you would share with us. So that means you download your project data and send me the file, for instance, by email. I have a direct access to your single project.
Fine, but you will appreciate in that might be that some of the projects are complex in nature, and then definitely I would be taking your technical team help to resolve these issues. Then definitely they would be having the access to data.
Yeah, when you send it to us.
Yes. I'm not doubting about the integrity of your team members. I do have a fully confidence in it. But how the system is protecting it?
On a technical base, I cannot really explain it because I'm not a programmer or software designer. But let's say that the other way around, there is no sharing function that I automatically have access to your data. It's like I said, you have to take your project, which you saved or which you generated in K2Base on your end, download the base file and send it to me in this example, and then I can open it and have a close look on your particular project data.
Because I do have a bad experience. Like few years back, I was supposed to install the solar system for my own factory, and I used one of the softwares, feed in there my system, and it was supposed to be my solar plant at my factory. But just week after, the people started approaching me that they are interested to put the solar power plant at my factory.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's something I just can say that we are not allowed to do something like this. Also based not only on the European Data Protection Regulation, but also as it's not our interest to provide other companies a connection to your project, but to support you in realizing the PV installation that you are planning. And therefore, there is no, and on those two factors, there is no connection, let's say. And if you jump on the K2, on the base website, maybe Harpreet, you can just jump to your browser, to K2Base. And if you click on start, exactly, then at the very bottom on the left side, you see privacy policy.
Yeah.
And there you find everything about how we, how it's described, how we make sure that all your data is protected in the appropriate way.
And okay, if suppose we enter into the long relationship with your company, then can you sign an indemnity with us? That
what
our
kind
data
of
would
document?
not be shared. In the indemnity bond, so that I mean, to for example, our data would not be shared with anyone. Can an independent document can
provide us the document, and then we will check it with our legal team and get back to you. Sure.
Okay, because see again, William, because this is a major concern and more concern in India, right? So I think that because you are new to India and you are going to launch your product, then of course I request you to see your business from this perspective as well.
Yeah, but on the other side as well.
Let's don't take it further because we have a lot of questions in the lineup. I would really appreciate, sir, that you can also discuss that me to one-to-one, because this will actually don't give the opportunity for the other people to ask the questions. So I really acknowledge your concern. That also you can discuss with me on one-to-one after the webinar.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next question, please, Hartwig.
Yeah, maybe one general question to get back, and lucky to involve you. I saw a question during chat, and one of the participants was asking, are not there any regulations that need to be followed while installation or while installing in India? And I think that's a pretty good question, because we've been coming from we saw all the pitfalls that could happen during an installation. So Lucky, please, what is your opinion on that?
So in India, particularly, we have BIS standards and some IEC standards that we are following, Indian and international standards, but they are all related to product base, not on the system base or your workmanship base. So yes, there is a lack of that standard, or what I said is a standard operating procedure for workmanship and installations. That is what we lack at present in Indian market.
Okay, thank you. So maybe one last question from Alrai. So I will unmute his microphone now.
Okay.
If it works, it's not. It seems it's blocked.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not working. So I cannot mute his microphone.
No problem. Is there any questions left in the chat box to ask?
There is one question from Samir Gandhi. So I unmute his microphone now.
Okay. So Mr. Gandhi, please go ahead.
It's also not working. He blocked himself. That was
okay.
With the other ones I tried as well. So more or less we have answered all of the questions, and I transferred some of the interesting questions also from chat.
Okay, perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, before I conclude, I would also like to tell you one more thing, which is called K2 Plus. K2 Plus is we talk about mechanical planning. So idea of K2 Plus is to combine both mechanical and electrical planning. So therefore we developed an online tool called K2 Plus by collaborating with various inverter manufacturers. So right now we have a collaboration with SMA, Solar Edge, and I think two more are there. I can show you my screen. So once you finish your K2 base planning, basically the mechanical planning, so it's also possible in order to save time. So you can also do the inverter designing. So you don't need to go to step one again, putting the making a module layout once again, choosing the location, etc. So with the same tool, you can also do your string sizing and so on. So for that, you just need to use our K2 Plus, and then once you finish with the mechanical planning, you can go do the inverter designing by clicking on the inverter K2 Plus, and then you can see we have a tie-up with Fronius, Coastal, SMA, and Solar Edge. Yes, and to show that feature, we are actually organizing a webinar on 29th of July with Solar Edge. So there will be the technical head of the Solar Edge would be demonstrating the Solar Edge planning. So if you are interested, I will be sending you the details about this webinar. So please do attend that webinar if it's interesting for you. So to conclude, so I hope this webinar is a value for you. And first of all, before that, I would like to thank first of all Lucky Agarwal for his kind presence on this webinar and agreeing to combinedly or organize this webinar for you to give a value for the audience. And thank you so much, Lucky. And
thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then I will also like to thank Hartwig, my colleagues from Germany, Hartwig and William, for helping me to moderate this webinar. Thank you so much, Hartwig and William, for taking part in this webinar and supporting us so early in the morning. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.
So once again, I will like to thank each and every one of you for coming here and sparing your precious time. Really acknowledge each and every one of you. I hope this value is a webinar for you, and I hope you will also soon register for this K2 PACE. And of course, if you have any questions, please do let me know. I would be really glad to hear from you about your doubts in K2 PACE and so on. And if you have any questions with the products, so please do get back to me. Thank you once again so much, and I'm looking forward to welcome you in the future webinars as well. Thank you so much.